Сегодня с вами Настя Гришина из Positive.
Hi, Nastya Grishina from Positive Technologies is with you. And in this studio, we're going to speak about an interesting topic. How can you get ready to launch Bug Bounty program? Today, I'm going to discuss it with great experts. Dima Kim, my colleague, he's responsible for Standoff 365 product. Lukas Safonov, he's responsible for bugbounty.ru project.
Хамитов,
Sasha Hamidov,
компании Wildberries.
he's from Wildberries, and just recently in Standoff 365, he was launching his own bug bounty program.
Гришин.
And Alexei Grishin, he's independent expert, but we have information that he was responsible for the launch of bug bounty in VK.
По плану у нас будет
According to our plans, we're going to discuss two big sections. In the first section, we are going to discuss how the classical bug bounty can be started,
отдельные системы компаний.
how can we put several company systems for everybody, for every cybersecurity experts to search for vulnerabilities there. And closer to an end of this program, we are going to discuss how difficult it is to launch bug bounty program in the framework of the whole infrastructure of the company, when we are not going to speak about the search of several vulnerabilities in several systems, but about how can we try to realize some critical business inadmissible events in the framework of the infrastructure, and can we attract expert community for these cybersecurity specialists for analysis and discovery of these problems. Okay, let's go back to the beginning and let's try to, simple checklist. How can we properly prepare ourselves and understand that the company can put certain systems for the bug bounty? And the first thing that I would like to discuss is the questions of budgeting and financing. Because bug bounty, it's understandable, it's not a free of charge story. At least it provides payments to experts for vulnerabilities discovered. So let's sit and think, how can you properly develop the budget for launching such a bug bounty program? It's functioning for at least a year, and I don't know. I would like to go to Alexei with this question. Losha, let's think what should be considered by the company from the point of view of forming this budget. Yes, it's understandable in order to define certain money for payments. How can we properly calculate these amounts? In order to calculate bug bounty budget, we have to understand which number of vulnerabilities we would like to have. In a standard way, the biggest costs are for the biggest vulnerabilities. Then, proportion-wise, you evaluate in percentage points how much you want to pay for very specific vulnerability. For example, XSS for you is 10 times less important, and these are relative numbers, of course, and then calculate those proportions. After you have formed these proportions, proportional cost, then you have to understand how many vulnerabilities you want to find, because, the number of vulnerabilities will be a very dynamic number, but there is a more or less adequate distribution that in flow out of 100% of useful bugs, there will be about 5% which are not critical but very important, and objectives which are medium and high, they are about 20%, and the rest of them are on the level of 75% for usual tasks, which we need for hackers to submit something, to be interested in the program, and work with it. So on the basis of this proportionality, you can calculate how much it will cost. And we could have a beautiful graphs and spreadsheets. Maybe someday I will do it, but right now I've explained it in a basic, superficial level. After this, we calculate how much it's going to cost us per year, and on a starting level, when the program is just being published, it spends more money, because hackers are actively researching it. So if you will look at the quarters, for the Q1, I would put about 40% of the budget, and for the rest of the quarters, 20 budget. That's how the 100% of the budget would be distributed between the year. I understand. Okay, Sasha. You said that recently Wildberries have put their bug bounty on our platform. Can you share your experience? Did you think about any budgets? Did you have this planning activity to launch this program? Yes. Honestly speaking, the history with launching, we've been launching the event Standoff Hacks, and the launch within this mode of operations allows us to evaluate how much money can companies spend within a year? So within one event, within 2 weeks, we have a predefined certain amount of money. We have looked at which number of researchers have been invited, which number of vulnerabilities they can submit to us, and expectations were alongside with how many problems were discovered and delivered to us. And then we are ready to scale these numbers that we defined for these 2 weeks, scale it for a year, and then calculate a budget for the whole year. That's how it is being done. It's a pretty good story in order to test and assess the amount for a longer period.
Возникает следующий вопрос. Вот более-менее
Then I have another question
на уязвимости, как
about budgeting and how to properly calculate those proportions. We have understood that. But I have another logical question.
программу Bug Bounty можно публиковать.
Bug bounty program can be published in different ways. It can be published separately, using mass media, publicity. The company is known, but we can also use specialized platforms which are in a bigger number, are appearing in Russia. And we have a question for every company. How can we properly do that? Publish it alone and collect all the experts around this bug bounty program, or use a specialized platform? So it's going to be a question to Luca. Luca, let's see.
Как правильно публиковать.
How can we take into consideration? How can we properly publish this program? And can we have any costs for this publication? Because this is not free of charge story.
Самый простой
Well, the simplest question of bug bounty
TXT в корне
is TXT file in a site root with the security teams.
вам напишут,
And then you have to wait until they will write it and then say thanks to them. Well, SOC host programs, they work, and they work mostly
компаниями,
with very large companies.
например,
And we do have a lot of questions to them. For example, Yandex
бакхантеров к
had a lot of problems from backhunters about the wrong triage and wrong bug investigation, long time for investigations.
владелец площадки
And vendor and the platform owner, as Yandex, well, can allow themselves to keep any conditions. As for third-party platforms,
не
for me as a platform, it's not beneficial
поощрять, да, и не хочет,
to pay to holders.
либо лишусь бакхантеров. Я еще хотел немного вернуться.
Also, I wanted to come back to the previous question about the cost, and I can say very specific numbers, which colleagues will confirm, except for Alexei, because there's a big gap. In the first month, from 20 to 60 bugs are being delivered to the company,
Стоимость уязвимости
with average cost of vulnerability up to 500,000 rubles. So it's 26 vulnerabilities with this budget. So the add number of bug hunters is not as big.
планирование,
As for budget planning,
ну, это уже принесенных уязвимостей. 5-10
from those vulnerabilities, 5 to 10% is critical vulnerabilities.
до 30
Up to 30% are medium, and the rest of them are small
и снижение
small ones.
идет первые 2-3
And their reduction goes within first 3 months by 10-15% less. And then
спокойствия, пока вы не поднимете.
you will have the payment by the piece until you will increase the level of vulnerabilities to a higher level. So you can calculate it, and this will be an average statistical program. So I think you have the same numbers. Yes, we have very similar numbers, definitely.
критичных и вот
Useful, critical, and most interesting reports under 30%.
охотятся на
Everybody's hunting during the bug bounty for critical and high vulnerabilities.
чтобы были крутые.
But in order to have big critical ones, you also should have small things, and you have 70% of small ones.
Вы не совсем
Okay, I understand.
ВК, потому что с очень
But VK has very high payments, and many people submit there because
миллионов за
up to 4 millions you pay for the vulnerability.
6 было,
Ну,
когда я
да,
работал.
да.
We had 6 when I've been working there.
Яндекс недавнее время у них было 10
Also, Yandex recently have celebrated 10 years of their program anniversary. They have attracted new researchers because they installed X10. So this month of Bug Bounty Yandex celebration, they made X10 10 times, and many people have received very big payments, like $50,000 and higher for bugs, which previously they wouldn't even submit.
Я даже могу дополнить коллегу.
And I would like to add to this.
Сами Яндекс рассказывали, что максимально
Yandex were telling us that maximum payment was, during the celebration, was 12 millions. It was the maximum they have paid for vulnerability.
идеальная комбинация, когда мы
And yes, this is ideal combination when we do PR and increase the amount of payments, because there are three things
исследователь. Это
behind which we have a researcher. It's a good attitude, big money, and understanding of where and what should be searched.
Да, здесь еще добавлю, что
And I would like to add
где запускать, нужно
when you select what you want to launch, you have to look at three things.
что баг-баунти платформа, она решает
Bug Bounty platform solves a problem of cooperation with research. It gives good channel of cooperation
командой продуктовой,
of researchers with product team and product team with researchers. Also, it provides them convenient interface for payments. So if you cannot do payments yourself, it's going to be very difficult to launch this program. And number three, and the main thing,
площадка предоставляет
Bug Bounty platform provides PR and a very big inflow of researchers which can research this program. So if these three objectives can be solved for you, then you can launch your own co-hosting program.
выбирать вот как раз исходя из трех вот этих
But otherwise, you have to select from these three.
с тобой чуть не соглашусь. Вот
Well, I will disagree with you a little bit.
программа, у них есть такая небольшая проблемка.
Program host has a little problem.
И
And the problem is that
человек, который будет решать спор,
person that will participate in the argument and the company that pays the money, these are two different people. And in case if we're trying to make this story on a third-party bug bounty program, so we have some treachery judge as a bug bounty platform.
Лука.
And this is what Luca was speaking about. And you can come to this person and you can solve this question. But in this case, there is no interest
В вендоре, либо в хакере.
in vendor or in hacker. So it's a balance that should be kept. And I think Luca will agree with me. Yeah.
Смотрите, ребят, сразу вот еще возникает вопрос. Вот
Okay, guys, I have another question. We've been speaking about pros and cons of every time of hosting, but what do you think about using platforms and separate programs? And does anybody have any programs without hosting them on the platform?
размещение определиться.
Or one should define only one way of hosting them?
истории иметь
Well, it's a good story to have co-hosted program and launch on third-party platform like in Wildberries. That's what we do.
используем там ресурсы
And we use resources
хакеров
of our own platform to attract hackers. And previously we had a possibility of
через свою
paying researchers.
сейчас как раз понять, в какую сторону.
And we're using combined model. And right now we're thinking in which direction should we move.
Комбинированно или выбрать?
So it's like you can keep it as combined or you can get concentrated on something different. Yeah, yeah.
Как бы про площадку
Okay.
было много сказано, что, ну,
We've been speaking a lot about platform, and there's a lot of advantages on the side of the platforms. But can you tell me, please,
сколько им денег?
in order for our viewers to understand how much money they should put in order to do the co-hosted program, if they want to put themselves on a platform, because there are some service fees and other things to consider for the budget.
Ну, там, ты говорил про...
Well, generally speaking, you've been speaking about co-hosting programs. You cut the costs for development of the convenient platform, etc., because you have a lot of convenient instruments inside of this platform. I'm not going to speak about them, and I don't really understand this co-hosting story.
Если говорить,
But speaking about our platform,
ты спрашивал там про бюджетирование, как
you've been asking about budgeting and how does it look like.
сам-
The simplest
она всегда
scheme
то есть у тебя
will always look like that. You have a certain subscription that you pay for 1 year, and then you have commissions with payments which are collected by the platform because it provides payment services, etc. And this is the simplest scheme of how it's going to look. Speaking about how much money you need,
от скопа.
everything will depend on the scope. So if your scope is a big like VK, it's going to be a lot, and Losha is not going to give me to lie. You will need to have from 5 millions in order to jump in this story.
И меньше,
Speaking about smaller size companies with a lesser scope, then it's going to be about 3 millions altogether.
Ну, вот цена за размещение программы.
This is a price of placing this annual program. Yeah, for establishment,
потому что
we discuss it with every client because everybody have their own specific requests.
вопросы к самому
There are specific requests to the functionality of the platform, and together with the development team, we do that.
функционирования, там, с точки зрения, что некоторые заказчики говорят, а я там буду сам
And
делать.
some clients say that I will make payments, let's agree.
Что пока
And it happens
мы индивидуально со всеми
that we individually are trying to agree the conditions so that it would be comfortable on our platform.
Добавить.
Good approach, good.
И добавляются нюансы.
And I would like to add nuances, open program or closed program,
Вот, в стоимость входит. Вот, потому что, опять же, открытый
triage cost, because open program, it's not
больше
PR of the platform, more possibilities of attracting bug hunters. It's some kind of a lottery.
недостаточно бакхантеров.
It's not sufficient to have bug hunters for the clients. Well, it's not everything about the money. We have an experience of supporting, I'm not going to do any advertisings,
Он у нас хостится бесплатно.
project which is hosted free of charge in our platform. It doesn't have any payments, but nevertheless,
Около сотни
approximately 100 bugs were submitted there free of charge.
Тоже вклинюсь. На самом деле
About free of charge.
хакеры ищут деньги.
Not all hackers are searching for the money.
Непосредственно
And to search for the money,
и потратить их куда-то.
receive this money and spend them. There are hackers who are doing it just free of charge, and there are hackers that after receiving these payments, they send these payments to kindergartens for charity and other things. And bug hunting for them, it's some kind of a hobby, some kind of a possibility
Рассказывать о том, что они нашли,
to advertise themselves in the community, whatever research it,
благотворить.
and they redistribute this money for charity
Поэтому
or just work free of charge. So money are important
нужно ли
in the moment of attracting this money, but does hacker need money and can they be attracted without money? No, hacker will come if it's going to be interesting.
интересно ни за какие деньги.
еще есть небольшое
And if it's not going to be interesting, they will not come for any money.
недооцененными.
Sometimes hackers think themselves under-evaluated and they give money to the charity due to this reason as well. For example, somebody receives 10,000 rubles. 10,000. Why? Take this money, put them in your...
Вымогательство, да. Но вот хочу предупредить всех этих
So I would like to warn all those hooligans,
там, конкурентами, ну, я имею в виду,
even though we are competitors, platforms, etc. But we plus minus, we do communicate. And if you will be threatening clients, you will be banned on all Russian platforms forever.
Сразу важных тем подняли. Ну, мне
So many important topics you have discussed. Well, I did like about the charity. Previously, I never seen anything like it.
в нашем хакерском комьюнити
In our hacker community,
людей.
we have so many good people who are not just thinking about their own profits.
Сразу хотела поднять еще следующий важный.
And I would like to lift another important question. We have determined the budget.
Теперь, ну, сколько
We understand how much money are needed to launch and support this program within the year. And then we have another question. Which specialists should be working for the company so that this program would be supported in a working condition? Yes, I understand.
отчеты, площадки,
There are different people who will check these platforms, self-host.
люди нужны.
There
Давайте,
are some special people that need it. Okay, let's discuss this.
чтобы ну, в течение...
How many people do you need so that the bug bounty program would work within a year and would work successfully? 300 people is not enough. Honestly,
На
if you will look
команду ВК
at the same VK team,
был.
which previously I participated, basically there are 3 people who were responsible for bug bounty. Not many, but it was enough. We have triagers, we have payments, we have built a system. And it is very important to launch bug bounty, not just simply in a new company,
Определенных моментов,
but after certain moments. For
построен
example, if you have a practice of vulnerabilities inside of the team
конкретного юнита,
or inside of some specific unit, you can launch bug bounty there because you understand who you communicate with, how they will fix it, and how much time will be required for this. It doesn't spend any additional resources.
пришлось фиксить баг.
And development team would fix those bugs anyway, and services would be readjusted. So I don't count new people that come to us. So then I have a question. Do we need additional stories and have some additional people who will constantly remind them? I don't know what it's going to be, service manager or maybe a project owner, whoever. those who constantly go and check those people. If your team can go without it, that's wonderful. Minus one person. It's going to be much simpler for you. But then we have a question. Who is involved in security and analysis? Because simply finding bug and confirming the bug, it's not sufficient. You have to work with the bug. You have to understand where it is. Can it be copied to other services? Or this is a single point where you have met it. Then you have to think about its fix. And then you can do it by the efforts of one specialist of informational security. But sometimes you need to attract administrators, discuss it, report it properly, and then control. So this story with triage and internal management of the bounty program, this is a different story. And even with a mixed triage, at least 1-2 people who will control this internal process, you will need those people.
Ребят, есть что-нибудь?
Okay, that's clear. Do you have anything else to add to this?
Что
Well, I would like to add here that in order for the bug bounty program to exist successfully, there should be people who will fix those errors that were discovered, because not all companies have their own development, and many people use consulting and they outsource the development, and in this case, it's going to be much more difficult. Yeah, but I will agree. This will extend the track. And internal developers, they fix some things for 3 days, but remote teams, they can do it in 3 weeks. And bug hunters may be unhappy. Well, that's understandable.
Есть еще важный момент, хотел дополнить тоже как раз.
Also, I would like to add about the number of people
Как раз таки тему ценных.
of the platform. What is wonderful about it, because they can provide additional services, those that will unload your team, because it's an understandable story about doubles, copies, and there will be a lot of reports, garbage reports they will put on you, and it's a good help from the side of the platform,
Первую линию такую оказывать и
which can be the first line and look at all these reports so that the team would receive a valid reports with which you can go to work. Well, these processes, it shows the maturity of the company because it's bug bounty. You have to list several factors. Last 5 pen test reports were empty, but we have defection system. We have the team and bug fixing team, which will constantly receive bugs. We have automation and security team, which will collect additional benefits from something that's constantly broken on your site or will be broken. They will have internal teams and they will find a lot of problematic points, which also will have to be cleared. You will have a big number, a lot of events in the security. This is noise, this is not noise. And they will be divided by the level of impact. And first of all, it has to be stratified so that patch management wouldn't lead to even worse consequences. Therefore, we need to read all these points and money to attract all of these. If you have all of these, then it's like with house repair. Multiply everything by 1.5 or maybe by 2. Look once again and then launch it.
Совет.
Wonderful advice. I would like to add, internal team should collect those low-hanging fruits, those bugs which you can find by scanners, correct them and remove them. It's better not to even bring them to bug bounty because they will eat a lot of your budget. And second of all, they will bring a big number of dubs for hackers. It will negatively turn people to the program. So having some scanners, having some team which already removes vulnerability which are found automatically, it's a must-have. Definitely. This is something without which there will be a lot of negativity from duplicates than useful. One more question to discuss. It's interesting when we would like to bring some system for the bug bounty. What do you think? In which cases it is better to give a testing system, and in which cases it's better to give product? And you have to take this in consideration before starting the program, right? It's a very arguable question. It's a very arguable question. We still, well, everybody will have their own opinion on this, but I always was for bringing product, for bringing real system, for bringing real data.
будет ломать
because hacker will break real system.
тестовую систему, не будет входить.
They're not going to touch your test system. They are not going to understand you if something was not set up properly. So test system will not give you 100%. There will be some allowances, there will be some disadvantages and some limitations. It's better to give test, but if you it's better not to give test system. It's better to give product system. But if you understand that something in product is still being tested, while it's being tested, remove it out of scope. So it's not paid outside of scope. If you'll find it, then we're not going to pay for it. We're just going to say thanks. But things which are important to us, please move it to paid investigation. And this is a very arguable approach, but following it, you can understand where real hackers have really broken you.
Соглашусь, наверное,
And I will agree with you on the fact that it's more important to bring product systems because test systems, if you will put test counter, some things can work in the test counter but will not work in the product. And then it will happen that the report was valid, but it's not reproduced in the product. That's why 0 cents, 0 impact from this report. But on the other side, let's fantasize a little bit. I think that in the test segment, some industrial system would look even better. If you want to have some physical object like we've been discussing, Postmates, scooters, driverless cars, etc., this story is more like a test segment because there are certain physical risks involved. But then in other cases, only product and product. Also, I would like to add that it has to be product that should be tested because product pulls a legacy, synthetic data, test system over rules from the scratch with no artifacts, with nothing is going to be shown. But when you launch some new critical module, it's better to start it in pre-prod stage, but with the data that mask real data, obfuscate. Ivanov Ivan Ivanovich is changed for Petrov Petr Petrovich. So you can download real data, but you should obfuscate it by real system so that bug hunter, pen testers would see real data. And those systems which you were just planned to launch, possibly they can be put in test, but those which already have launched and exploited, why should I boost bug hunters into a test counter if real hackers, they break real product and I'm not going to be able to merge them? So you should break only product and you should have still Fabergé eggs. So in order to launch the program and in order for the team to wait, it's not like hackers, non-hackers. No, it's good for the team because they will break it 24/7. And Alexei will tell you, you will receive a lot of reports from your own security people that they have discovered in the process when they've been bug hunted. Yes, I will agree. There's another peculiarity. If we put some test stands for testing, this also extends the scope of attack because there are certain configs on the tests which are not available in the prod, but in the test they had it and they can penetrate into the infrastructure through the test counter. But in the test counter, the prod data is located and they will get access to them. So the test counter should be used only in those cases when there is an integration with other auxiliary systems, and especially third-party systems. Because if you do a B2B product which is integrated with your partners, then introducing it as a bug bounty which will affect your partners, this is also very dangerous. And mock these integrations on the test stand, yes, you can do it, and then bring it in such an appearance. And in the end, I would like to add to the minuses of the product. Everything that was told to us, it's wonderful. But the usage of the product, it has big disadvantage because from the point of view of systems which are used in the product, you will also have real data. And if you integrate with personal authentication, public services, and systems which require provide documents, no matter what it is, passport, driver license, card numbers, these all can de-anonymize the hacker, and the researcher doesn't want to approach this program and it's solving. As a rule, it gives a certain block. And in this situation, there are less researchers with the product rather than it would be a test stage where everybody would receive these relative John Does and would work with them. So products also have its disadvantages. Well, it's pretty cool when product and development can be developed and used, but in this situation,
Действительно выводим вот D,
every time when we use development environment, it moves us closer to the development. We will do the fix faster. We'll make a better product. Then we are not going to fail the partner, but everything will depend on the service. Product is good, but sometimes
бочки меда есть ложка.
in this bucket of honey, there is a spoon of dirt.
Согласие, что как бы прод,
And I see
ну,
it's an arguable question.
4 из
You
4
see,
все равно
4 out of 4
нужно выводить прод.
still the product should be delivered. Okay, our time came to an end, but I think that we have discussed a lot of interesting questions, and I think that all the companies which are thinking about bringing their systems to bug bounty,
Проще
it will be much simpler for them to get ready and to understand some initial steps which have to be made by them. Because, we have discussed a checklist, we've discussed all the questions related with budgeting, with who and how should place their bug bounty systems on a platform, or should it be self-hosted programs.
то
And also we have discussed
тему лучше.
how can you understand which system should be better, product or test.
Я думаю, что эта
So
информация
I think this information will be sufficient for our users to analyze for the time to go. And I would like to say thanks to you guys for this discussion. It was wonderful. We discussed a lot of questions. Thank you very much.
будем прощаться.
Okay, we'll say goodbye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.